Gospodine Blagojeviću, dobar dan i dobrodošli. Velika nam je čast što gostujete kod nas i što govorite za naš portal.
Hvala. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Mi smo nedavno razgovarali, imali smo veliki novogodišnji intervjuu koji smo odradili telefonskim putem i tu smo pričali o dosta stvari. Vi ste mi tada rekli da ste prošle godine u junu bili u Srbiji i da se Srbija dosta promenila. Evo sada ste ovde već 5 dana. Kako vam Srbija sada izgleda?
It's a stark difference, Serbia today from what it was the first time I came during the war in 1999. It's like I've come to a whole different world. And I think what's really impressive is the fact that not only did I come to a new and thriving Serbia, but I was able to get here in a way that was much easier today than it was back in 1999. I flew on Air Serbia, took a direct flight from Chicago right to Belgrade. Air Serbia is the only airline in the Balkans where you can get direct flights from Serbia to the United States and back. That's a big statement for the advancement of prosperity in this country. Serbia has changed so dramatically from when I was here. I marvel at the fact that the unemployment rate used to be 26% in this country, and then President Vucic came and implemented these aggressive policies to grow the economy and brought unemployment down by 8%. It's remarkable to be here in Serbia, the land my father was born and raised in, and see that this country had the second largest economic growth in all of Europe. That's a big, big thing for a country from the Balkans. Probably never happened before. And then, to me, the most important piece of information, because when I was the governor, it was very important to try to improve the life of everyday, ordinary working people. The fact that wages, real wages for working people has gone up 270% from the time when President Vucic was first elected to now. And I like to say that if that number were something that happened in America and a president could say that he did that like Vucic did here, that president would be made a king. So I'm amazed at the economic prosperity of this country. What I see throughout Belgrade as I travel around is construction and activity and people working, a lot of bustling, feels a lot like America. And I would say one last thing, I've had this unique opportunity to be here, the place my father came from, and I run. I'm, how do you say fit as a fiddle in Serbian? I think I'm that. And I went and ran 7 miles along the river, the Danube, from the hotel, the St. Regis Hotel, which is one of the best hotels in America. Here it is now in Belgrade. That's unimaginable years ago. So I left that beautiful hotel and went north, Sever, and then came south, 7-mile run along the Danube, and was able to see firsthand a lot of the activity, the development along the riverfront. And here you have a president leading an effort to build a city within the city with Belgrade waterfront, and the vision that that's about, and how perfectly that fits into the expo that's coming in 2027. Another tremendous accomplishment that Belgrade actually would win that, a World's Fair, with all the other competition in the world. So I think of your president, President Vucic, I think of the accomplishments that I just talked about, and I'm sure there's so many others. And it reminds me a lot of President Trump. The two of them are very strong political leaders, and they're very different from most of the politicians that I've known in America, and I've known them, pretty much a lot of them. I've known Barack Obama and I came up together in Chicago in 1995 was the first time I met him. We were friends and known each other for a long time, and he became a president, so I've known him. I knew Bill Clinton somewhat. I knew Biden a little bit. I knew President Bush a little bit. And I know President Trump in a very good way. And when I think about politicians, and I think about those who mostly are interested in giving fancy speeches but don't do anything, and I think about President Trump and President Vucic, two guys who are not interested in giving fancy speeches. They're interested in getting things done for people. It's all about their records of accomplishment, the thing they're doing for their countries. I think you're very lucky to have that leadership here, and I think it's very obvious how great Serbia is doing just by being here and seeing it.
Imali ste sastanak kada ste došli sa predsjednikom Vučićem, zajedno ste ručali. Kako ste zadovoljni tim sastankom?
It was really thrilling to have a chance to not just meet President Vucic, but to sit down and have lunch with him in the presidential residence, and such a beautiful building. It's in Dedinje, and what I was struck by before we sat down to have lunch was the first thing that the president did was he took me out on the balcony and we looked at the cityscape of Belgrade, and he was pointing out different things that he was able to achieve. And I was actually touched by that because I know what it's like when I was the governor of Illinois. We have a big state, fifth biggest state in America, and 13 million people there. And it's a hard business being in politics, and you get attacked all the time and you get criticized. And I'm not complaining or whining. We all know it. President Vucic knows it. Trump knows it. I know it. That's part of the job. It's an occupational hazard. What gives you strength and what gives you, it refreshes your purpose is to be able to take a deep breath and realize a lot of the good that you've done for the people. And so President Vucic took me out on the balcony and he was pointing at all these different places throughout the city that they did since he's been president, not just the waterfront, but some of the buildings and some of the neighborhoods. And he had such a specific understanding of these things. He's clearly a hands-on leader. And that reminded me of Trump, and it reminded me of two great mayors in my city, Chicago, two long-serving mayors. The first mayor, Richard J. Daley, and his son, Richard M. Daley. And the son, who I used to work for when I was a prosecutor, became the longest-serving mayor in Chicago history. And he had a great deal of pride on pointing things out in the city of Chicago that he was able to do just like his father. And they built the city up and made it a beautiful, world-class city. And that was what I thought about when President Vucic was showing me Belgrade, as he's resurrecting this city and making it world-class, so much so that the World Expo is coming here in 2 years. So that was very interesting to me. And so we sat down for lunch, and when I first met him and he greeted me down at the doorway, I was really impressed with how tall he is. I knew he was tall, but I didn't realize he was that tall. And I thought about, yes, of course he's tall, because Serbs are very tall. My American wife always teases me, how come you're the shortest? How come all these Serbs are so tall and you're so short? I'm actually not. I insist I'm 5'11". She says I'm 5'10", but the Serbs are tall, and President Vucic is very tall, so I was interested in that. But the lunch was great, and we discussed certain things that I think are important, things that I could do to be helpful to improve American-Serbian relations. And I have to say, and I've had a lot of pleškovica since I've been here, and I love pleškovica, but that pleškovica the president served was probably the best pleškovica I've ever had. And so the lunch was also enjoyable, not just the conversation.
Nakon tog ručka koji ste imali sa predsjednikom Aleksandrom Vučićem, ta druga struja u Srbiji je odmah počela da komentariše kako je to Vučić ugostio nekog ko je podržao bombardovanje, što apsolutno nije tačno, i svi smo svedoci da ste vi bili jedini kongresmen u tom periodu koji zapravo nije podržao bombardovanje. Kako odgovarate na takve kritike, pa slobodno možemo da kažemo zlonamernih ljudi?
Yes, well, that's part of the occupational hazards in politics too, that people will take your record and they'll lie about it, or they'll try to mislead the public. I was one of the only 14 members of the United States Congress on the night before the bombing who spoke in the Congress and against the bombing and warned the American people and my colleagues in the Congress that this was a provocation by the United States, and that if, in fact, we bombed and NATO bombed Serbia, that the hardship that was going to happen to the Kosovar people under the Milosevic government was very likely to happen, and that they were unleashing the furies of more war and not stopping war, and that it was wrong for a sovereign country to be bombed because other countries want to take part of their country away, and that we, the United States, were going to violate the territorial integrity of a sovereign country without United States, or I should say United Nations approval. And I think about that today, and I think about the American criticism to Russia and its invasion of Ukraine. It's the exact same thing the United States and NATO did to Serbia. So those criticisms, they're wrong and they're not true. And I did the best I could as a young member of Congress, the only Serbian American in the United States Congress. There were none in the United States Senate. There was nobody of any kind of place of influence in American politics that was Serbian except me. And I think I was able to do some good when I came to Serbia in May of 1999. The bombs were falling against the wishes of the Clinton administration, because they didn't want us to come, but Reverend Jesse Jackson and I came, and were able to negotiate with Milosevic the release of 3 American servicemen who were taken prisoner. And we knew, Reverend Jackson and I knew, that if we were able to get those soldiers back, that the political dynamic in the United States would change, and that the pressure on President Clinton to stop the bombing of Serbia would increase, and that eventually he would stop the bombing. And it happened exactly as we thought it would. So in that sense, I feel like I played a modest role, I think more than a modest role, in bringing about the ending of the bombing. I regret the whole war. I don't like the result of the war, and don't like the Democratic Party's priorities in foreign affairs relating to the Balkans. We chose the wrong side. The Democrats, not me, but the Democratic Party. We abandoned a loyal ally in 2 world wars. All of these things I spoke about, not just on the House floor, but in interviews as well. I see what's happening now to the Serbs in Kosovo. And the Serbs now are being persecuted by the government there. And here again is an example of how hypocritical sometimes our policies are and how wrong they are. I mean, Kosovo declares its own independence in February 2008. It was an illegal independence. It would be like the state of Texas saying, you know what, United States, we want to leave. In fact, we have a history of that when 11 southern states left when Abraham Lincoln was elected, just on their own, and he wouldn't let them do it. And we had a civil war where 600,000 boys, American boys, killed each other over that. So the fact that Kosovo does that, gets away with it, it's another example about how upside down our foreign policy has been with regard to the Balkans. And this is why I have so much hope for the future, this new beginning we have in America with President Trump. And his views are very different from the traditional views in foreign affairs, and I believe they're going to be very different when it comes to this area, in particular with Serbia. And I do believe that President Vucic is the sort of leader that President Trump admires. And so much of governing, I've learned, and so much of politics are personal relationships and whether leaders have a connection. Winston Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt had a unique connection and a unique friendship, and they helped steer our 2 countries to victory in World War II. And then, our country stayed together during the Cold War. I think the possibilities of President Trump and President Vucic developing on their own, I'm hopeful, that kind of relationship is very real and possible and can only be good for America and for Serbia.
Vi ste nedavno u jednom intervjuu koji ste dali isto za srpske medije rekli da su ti ljudi koji mrze predsednika Vučića i predsednika Trampa zapravo isti. Na koga ste tačno mislili?
No, I think so. I think it's very interesting. Since I come here, and before I came, I was able to read up a little bit about the circumstances in Serbia. It's very clear to me that the very same people who hate President Trump are the ones who hate President Vucic. What else is very clear to me is, and I know President Trump a little bit, maybe a little bit better than a little bit, but I know in many ways, in some areas, how he is. And he's the sort of man who admires strength, toughness, and people who get things done. And I just know that President Vucic is Trump's kind of guy. That's a phrase in America. And again, as I said before, politics and government, these personal relationships cannot be dismissed. So the opportunity for the 2 of them to work together, I think, is very real. And Trump works better with people that he trusts, and I should say who he respects. And I think, again, that offers a great opportunity. And I think Trump would appreciate someone who sort of has the same critics and opposition. And that is another example of the sort of reality that exists today that I think likely can bring the 2 of those presidents and their relationships closer together. I think President Vucic and President Trump, because they're so similar, President Trump, I think, will be very interested in getting to know him and try to work together. I do think that'll be very good for both countries. Can I just add something? There's an old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I think that very much sums up some of the circumstances regarding both presidents, Trump and Vucic. The same people who hate Trump hate Vucic, so that I think is going to naturally bring them both together. And then the other thing I would say is President Trump wrote a best-selling book way before he was in politics, and it's called The Art of the Deal. He takes great pride in the fact that he had great success in business, great success in entertainment in America, and great success in politics because he is a master at the art of the deal. He's a doer. your president is the same thing. He's a doer, and he's very successful getting things done by making the necessary deals to get things done. The two of them, I think, are made for each other, and it's my hope that moving forward they will find each other and advance the causes of both of our countries.
Malo pre ste ispomenuli tu dobru saradnju u budućnosti Srbije i Amerike, tačnije predsednika Vučića i predsednika Trampa, i tome se svi nadamo, ali dotakli smo se i Kosova. Da li verujete da će se pronaći adekvatno rešenje i kada to otprilike možemo da očekujemo? Jer dosta je glasina kada se o tome govori.
I have high hopes that there could be a resolution that could be helpful to the Serbs who are facing the persecution right now in the northern part of Kosovo, Kosovo Mitrovica area in particular. The Kurti government and the way it's been behaving and acting has resulted in 24 countries, independent countries, who have now said they don't recognize the independence of Kosovo. So that's a step in the right direction in terms of creating awareness around the world about what's happening to the Serbs by the Kurti government in Kosovo. These are the sorts of things that people like me need to go back to the United States and talk about to people who have a lot of influence and a lot of followers, leaders like in the media like Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson or Megyn Kelly, Fox News, Newsmax, and some of these organizations who view politics in ways similar to the Trump administration, President Trump himself. So I think once the American people understand what's happening in Kosovo, I think there'll be a dramatic interest in doing the right thing and protecting people from being persecuted by a government that is mistreating them. So I think, too, this new beginning with President Trump in America and the fact that the Biden administration was so hostile to the Serbs and that the fact that the Biden administration was so much basically carrying the water for Kurti and the Kosovar Albanian government, basically doing whatever they want, knowing how President Trump operates, the fact that he has a great disregard for Joe Biden and his leadership, it's another opportunity that I think is right before Americans and Serbs, and that is that President Trump's going to want to do just the opposite of what Biden did. And so I think there's a real great deal of opportunity here, and I have high hopes, very high hopes, that things can improve dramatically for the Serbs in Kosovo under the Trump administration.
To su jako lepe vesti za ceo srpski narod i svi se nadamo tom pozitivnom ishodu. Ja se nadam da ste vi svesni koliko ste bitan čovek za odnose Srbije i Amerike. Dosta se u našoj javnosti spekulisalo i govorilo o tome da ćete vi biti budući ambasador Amerike u Srbiji. Hoćete nam kažete kakve su šanse za to?
You know, ja ne znam. Some people are talking about it, but I think I can be more helpful as a private citizen in the United States, having an opportunity to get on be part of different media outlets and try to advocate or educate and raise awareness to the issues here in the Balkans, here in Serbia, and why it's important for our two countries to have better relations, and how it's good for America and good for Serbia, good for the American people, good for the Serbian people. I really think I can be so much more helpful in that role than being an ambassador. You know, and I was a young lawyer, and I was getting involved in politics in Cook County, which is Chicago, and a big city, big county. It was a lot of lawyers felt that wouldn't it be nice if I could become a judge? And it's a good living, not a lot of stress, you get authority, and you have a status in the community. But you're pretty much confined to that. There's not a lot more you can do. And I never had any interest in that. If I was going to be in politics, it was going to be to run for offices where you can actually do meaningful things. And I'm not here to dismiss judges, but it's just that it's almost too easy of a life. And I think I kind of equate ambassadorships that way. It's a nice place to retire to, but I'm not ready to retire. I have a lot of work to do to catch up for all the lost years that were taken from me by those corrupt prosecutors who did to me and my family what they did. I have a lot of catching up to do. And I just think I can serve so many better purposes by being free of the restrictions that being an ambassador would have. It's just not anything I have any interest in. There are things I'd like to do in America, like work to do something about ending the weaponization of prosecutors and basically ending the KGB Soviet-style police state politics that has happened in America today. It started with the Democratic governor when the Republicans did it to me. Then they learned from that. And a lot of the same people then did it to President Trump. So they went from a Democrat governor to a Republican president. And that's not what American politics is supposed to be. This is a real challenge and threat to our freedoms. So I think I could really be helpful on something like that. And I think being free to pick and choose issues that I think are really important to my country, like that issue of the weaponization of the criminal justice system, and being helpful because I have this unique situation where I have, in some respects, grown up in two worlds. I'm 100% Amerikanac. Moja mama je bio rođena u Ameriku. Ali moj tata došao od Šumadija, velikog krčmare, i my first language was Serbian. I knew all the Serbian swear words before I knew a single word of English. But I could say, I'm not going to say it, but I could say some of those famous routine swearing phrases that the Serbs say before I could say hello. So I have that, and I love my country, America, but my heart is here in Serbia, and I feel it when I'm here. I think of my father. I can just feel him. I can almost see his footsteps in certain parts of old Belgrade. So I think I can do so much more here. And I'm so excited about the president that you have. I just met him one time. He's nice, good Pleškovica. I don't really know him. But I think you've got a president that's really, building a legacy of greatness for the Serbian people. He's bringing Serbia back. And I love President Trump, but he's going to do that in America too. I think I could play a modest role in forging ahead in these sorts of things. And so I'm interested in that, not retiring as an ambassador and having cocktail parties.
Budući da eto tako pozitivno gledate na odnose Srbije i Amerike, moram da vas pitam još jednu stvar, s obzirom da se eto dosta spekulisalo da bi upravo Srbija, tačnije Beograd, mogli da budu destinacija gde bi se sastali predsednik Trump i Putin. Jel verujete da je to moguće?
I think that's an exciting idea. And when I ask myself, can I think of a better place to bring peace to the war between Russia and Ukraine, where the leaders could meet, where Putin could feel comfortable and welcome, and Trump would be comfortable and welcome, and Zelensky could feel comfortable and welcome. I can't think of a better place than Belgrade. It would be remarkable. And President Vucic would be the host, and all of them getting together to try to end that war and bring peace. I can't think of a better place. I can't imagine Putin would have any interest in going to any Western European country. They might arrest him. So no, I think, I don't have no inside information. I don't know that it'll happen. But if anybody wants to ask me my opinion, I would certainly strongly argue and advocate that Belgrade is the perfect place for that kind of a summit.
Malo čas ste mi rekli da Trump voli jake ljude i jake lidere. Zanima me kakav je Trumpov komentar kada razgovara sa Srbima, budući da zaista znamo da su mu Srbi sada u ovoj izbornoj kampanji bili tu, da kažem, dosta su i finansirali njegovu kampanju. Kakav je njegov komentar, eto, na pomen srpskog naroda?
Well, he knows, on zna, he knows that in Europe, the Serbs were the most supportive of him than any other country. And look, I'm the same way. If people like you, you like them. And if they like you, you want to help them, if you have the ability to help them. And, they don't like you, and you think there's some reason to improve your country, you're probably less interested in whether they like what you want to do or not. I think about, for example, Greenland. And I saw a poll where the people in Denmark, I think Denmark controls Greenland, supported Kamala Harris overwhelmingly. And now President Trump's, I think, rightly saying that the United States should buy Greenland for our national security reasons, as well as for commercial reasons. It's a brilliant thought and long overdue, but I bet you he wouldn't be as interested in doing that if the people in Denmark were less hostile to him and less supportive of Kamala Harris. That's just my view. So the fact that the Serbian people love Trump, I think it means, if he knows that, and he does because I told him, and he's not surprised, he has a great deal of admiration for the Serbs, and I've heard him say it in public places, and he said it to me. love the Serbs, they're fighters, they're tough people. He likes fighters and tough people because he's one too. So I think this is a good thing to have in our efforts to improve relations between our two countries.
Ja se nadam da ćete mu i vi preneti vaše utiske boravka u Srbiji. Za kraj želim samo da vas pitam, jeste osjetili tu dobrodošlicu srpskog naroda? Jeste zapravo osjetili koliko vas srpski narod voli?
Oh, hvala. It's heartwarming. How do you say that in Serbian? Heartwarming. Yeah, moj srce. To je tako vrlo lepo. It's so nice. And as I say, heartwarming. And I think about that, and I think of my father. And I think about my father in heaven, and I think he has a hand in some of this. And I know my father, how much he loved Serbia, and how proud he was to be Serbian. I ja kažem ovo u srpski. Moj tata bi bio puno ponosan da zna da ovo, that this is happening. It would mean a lot to him. He'd be very proud of it. And I'm very grateful and feel heartwarming. And I think you know why they feel that way, if it's true? Because I think they know that I love them. Because we're the same people. And my heart was broken when our country bombed Serbia, and I saw the pain in the eyes of Serbs that I saw when I was here with Jesse Jackson. Now today it's a very different Serbia, and I know there's domestic issues, as we all have in our country too. There's protests, we have them in our country too. That's what a free society does. It's an example really of the strength of this country, that you can have those kinds of protests. It's a good thing, shows good leadership in this country. But I'm so glad to hear that, and grateful. And this is a case not of unrequited love, it's a case of reciprocal love. If that's the case on their end, I can tell you for sure it's the case on my end. I love the Serbian people. They're my brothers and my sisters.
Hvala vam puno, gospodine Blagojeviću, na izdvojenom vremenu i bila nam je čast.
Thank you, Tamara. Thank you very much.